Hey, Stephen Foskett here with Gestalt IT. Now, we are usually in enterprise tech space, but we also run the Tech Field Day events, which means that we needed a very portable router to bring on site with us for our events. I know a little bit about this stuff, so I picked a GL iNet router mainly because it runs DDWRT, which is an embedded router firmware that's very configurable and can do some very cool things. Now, originally we had this guy, which is the 750M. This uses a single core MIPS processor running about 650 megahertz. It's got dual band 5 gigahertz and 2.5 Wi-Fi, but doesn't have a lot of CPU power. Still, it's very cheap, it's very lightweight, very portable, so they're good little boxes. I recently picked up this is called the Slate. This actually has a 750 megahertz CPU, gigabit interfaces, so you got 3 gigabit ports, and a little bit better Wi-Fi, but really it's a lot like the little guy here. Works really well, but unfortunately, when we ran our software queue manager cake in production, we found that it just pegged the CPU the whole time. So we needed something a little faster. That's why we picked up this guy. This is the Opal. This is one of the newer ones that GL iNet just came out with. Now, it's not their newest stuff, which uses an ARM CPU. This thing still uses a MIPS-based CPU, but it's got a dual-core 1 gigahertz CPU, plus it's got a little bit faster Wi-Fi with 2x2 MIMO, so I figured that would be pretty good on site. Let's take a look inside the box. The box is pretty simple. It's just folded cardboard, which is fine. We don't need some kind of fancy Apple stuff here. Now, as you can see, the difference between the newer ones and these older ones, these guys actually have kind of a book-looking form factor. This new one actually has more of a rounded, modern form factor to it. You can see that the ports are actually still all in the same spot. That's because they're actually very, very similar. These old CPUs are made by Qualcomm, and this new one is made by a Chinese company called SI Flower, but they're all basically MIPS CPU cores. This one also uses USB-C power instead of the micro USB on the older ones, which is kind of nice, one less cable to bring. As you can see, it's got the flip-up antennas, just like the Slate does, but this one is obviously just a little bit bigger than the other ones in most dimensions. I can also tell you that it is a little bit heavier, certainly heavier than this guy, not super heavy, but slightly more heavy and slightly bigger. On the outside here, we've got, again, 3 gigabit ports, WAN and 2 LANs. We use these for our camera controllers and our microphones and so on because it's all Ethernet based. We also have USB 2. Some of the new ones have USB 3, but it really doesn't matter because it's not fast enough to make a difference. On the side here, we have a mode switch and a reset switch. Nice thing about the mode switch is that you can configure this so that you can turn on and off an open VPN or a WireGuard firewall on demand, which is really great while you're traveling. Also, the front panel here is just a little bit more modern, Cylon looking than the old triple LED look on these guys. So it comes with a couple of things. First of all, a nice flat coiled Ethernet cable. I love these guys for my travel bag. It also comes with a captive cord USB-C power adapter with an American plug on it. I got this off Amazon, so it came with the American plug only. Now, just for a size comparison, I thought I would put a couple of familiar items here. This is an iPhone 11, the regular size. This is a Apple's 61-watt USB power supply, the one that everybody is using with MacBook Pros and MacBook Airs and so on. All of these you can see are very, very small, pretty good size for throwing in a travel bag. One thing, though, in terms of weight, this is much, much heavier than all of these other items. In fact, the routers are actually even less heavy than the iPhone, so they really, really are light. So once again, this is the GL iNet Opal travel router. It's model AC1200. It's a nice little portable device. It runs DDWRT, so you can do some pretty advanced stuff on it, including, as I said, running Cake SQM, which works beautifully, as well as running zero tier if that's your preferred VPN. It's also part of the DDWRT package. So it really does work great. We've had a lot of experience with these, and we're pretty happy with the overall performance. Check out gestaltit.com for all your enterprise tech coverage, and maybe tune in on Wednesdays as Tom Hollingsworth and I review the news of the week.